Well, good morning and welcome back. I hope you are enjoying the morning. Mary, thank you so much for that great presentation. It was wonderful. Now we're going to go into our first workshops in business recovery. And I want to introduce the moderator. The moderator is Vandana Singh, the editor-in-chief at the Washington Business Journal. We're going to talk a little bit of what's happening and what happened during the pandemic. Vandana, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your leadership, and know that we all feel very proud of you. And thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Angela. And I'd like to thank all of you, first of all, for your patience as we worked out our technical difficulties here. Thank you, Angela, and thanks to the DC Chamber for having me here today. Thank you to our panelists. There really is no bigger topic today than business recovery. I mean, we've all been through a period that we never could have imagined with vaccinations. There's light ahead. And I am happy to talk to our panelists today about what could lie before us. So thank you all for joining us. For our panel today, we do have Yesham Taylor. She's Executive Director of the DC Policy Center. We have Ola Sage, Founder and CEO of CyberRx. We have also, please welcome Vanessa Wetherington. She's Deputy Director for the Department of Employment Services in the Federal Workforce Program. And Sabangli, again, could not join us, I believe, today, or she did have that hard stop. So, we will definitely be hearing lots and lots of insights and tips and programs that are out there on what to expect now going forward. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. I wanted to start us off because you all are very interesting. You each come from a very different perspective here. We have workforce development, policy research, and entrepreneurship itself with you, Ola. So my first question to you is, from each of those individual unique perspectives that you each hold, what's the one thing that you think DC businesses sort of most need to recover from this past year? If there was sort of one thing that you could point to. Ola, if you wanted to start us off.
Well, good morning, DC Chamber. Thank you for the invitation, and Vandana, thank you for moderating this panel. Wow, that's a big question. What's the one thing? There are probably a lot of things. I think what I have heard a lot and saw a lot over the last year, it really shook our confidence. The pandemic, just what people thought was possible, what the uncertainty that the pandemic created, and so I think just the mindset, right, of that we can do this, we can grow, we can scale, we can be successful, we can thrive. Just getting our mindset back into that frame of we can do it, I think, is a big part of the recovery, starting with the mindset. And then there are a lot of things that I assume we're going to be talking about that are more specific, but that's one thing that I would start with.
Yeah. Vanessa, how about you?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me today. I think confidence is a major one. I also think support from policymakers, support from researchers, support from the community is very important. As a lot of businesses work towards recovery, we offer a lot of supports in terms of training, both businesses and potential employees, as well as some subsidized programs for potential employees and to offset some costs for businesses. So I think just support in general is very important.
And Yesham.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I think one element that's really important is the vibrancy that the businesses have relied on in the past. We have a lot of commuters and tourists who come to the city, a very dynamic population, and COVID has taken quite a hit, has created quite a bit of vibrancy in the city. And returning back to that vibrancy is an important factor in addition to what Ola and Vanessa mentioned, which I totally agree with.
Yeah. Well, and yes, we could sort of talk a little bit about that, because we have seen, the state of downtown DC, it's quite tough right now. Downtown DC's their latest report showed some record vacancies in office, multifamily, and retail. So in terms of some of the commercial space, the commercial office vacancies that we're seeing right now, how much of an impact do you see that having, on sort of the downtown core going forward, and how do we address that?
Yeah, and I hope people can hear me better now. I just saw through the chat that it wasn't coming quite clear, so let me know. There are two impacts of the increasing vacancy rates in the downtown area, and I think of the downtown area not just where the downtown bit is, but thinking of this sort of question mark shaped area starting from Foggy Bottom all the way to Southwest Waterfront. And all submarkets there have seen increases in vacancy rates. So if one building has high levels of vacancy, we could just say it's bad luck, bad management. But when the entire market suffers from it, it has implications for future demand. Businesses want to be where other businesses are. And, people want to come where businesses are. So, and the implication of that is increased vacancies mean lower revenue for buildings, which means lower taxes for the district, which is so now we're in this vicious cycle. And what has been an engine of revenue in the district is taking a hit. So I think bringing back vibrancy into the downtown area is not only important for creating jobs and revenue streams for businesses, but also a continued revenue stream for the government as well. So at this time, I think we're getting lots of support from the federal government. It's a lot of money, but it's one-time money. So I think we need to think about how much of it we should be spending on some economic development incentives. Maybe it's grants to help businesses relocate to the downtown area. Maybe support so a lot of the new businesses that were created after the pandemic as online entities look for space in the downtown area or other parts of the District of Columbia. So these are two things that come to mind. Thank you.
Yeah. Vanessa, I did want to talk to you about in terms of job training and reskilling. I mean, one of the things that we're hearing about is that certainly some of the small businesses that are coming back, the restaurants and some of the hospitality businesses are having trouble finding. There's a labor shortage now. I mean, they're having trouble filling some of these spots as they actually are reopening. What are some of the programs that you guys are offering, or whether new or existing, that are rolling out to help sort of meet demand as it finally starts to come back a little bit?
Absolutely. So we do have some existing federal programs that are funded yearly. For example, on the job training, where businesses can connect with our Office of Talent and Client Services to be partially reimbursed for the wages of eligible employees who go through that program. Wage reimbursement will be essential for businesses who, were hit hardest and now need to see their revenues increase. But how do I pay employees and I don't have, any customers? So on the job training programs are important. Work experience programs. So that is a subsidized program where the agency for an eligible employee would pay the subsidized wages at the minimum wage for eligible employees that could gain work experience at businesses, especially those employees who know their industries are not set to recover as quickly and might in turn become career changers as a result. Work experience programs where a subsidized wage is offered is, a huge boost for a lot of organizations that need to retrain and reskill some employees or just get some new talent. We also have apprenticeship programs where we've actually intersected with Yesham and her group a lot on apprenticeship opportunities and encouraging more businesses to become registered apprenticeship sponsors. That way they can then take advantage of, federal supports for training, access to quality employees, and a lot of support from the agency.
And how does that work, the apprenticeship programs, and how would a business get involved in that?
Absolutely. So our Office of Apprenticeship Information and Training, we host quarterly sponsor meetings and meetings for organizations that want to become registered apprenticeship sponsors. And a registered apprenticeship is slightly different than a non-registered apprenticeship in that it is nationally recognized by the federal government as well. It also puts business in a position to access training dollars where we could assist them with funding the training component for employees, not just in traditional apprenticeships like electricians and sheet metal, but also in non-traditional areas like hospitality and healthcare and even IT. So we can share my contact information and would most certainly get them connected.
Yeah. And obviously we're in a stage where we're talking about return to work, some at different stages of that journey than others. Ola, where are you at in terms of your business and return to work? What is that looking like for you, or has it looked like for you if you guys have?
Yeah, that's a
been in
question.
office?
I mean, being in cybersecurity, one of the benefits is that we're not necessarily tied to brick and mortar. So from that perspective, it didn't affect my business that dramatically. But I will say that I believe it was Director Whitfield said, I'm not sure if it's the conference theme, but one of the things she said was survive, pivot, and thrive. And those could be the same themes for cybersecurity for companies in the last year. And I guess, one of the things that I really appreciated about this opportunity to just encourage the businesses who are participating today, there are really simply three reasons why I continue to talk about cybersecurity and why you should care. Ability to keep your business, stay in business, and grow your business. And we know that last year, my company was commissioned to do a survey of small, medium-sized businesses and their cybersecurity practices. We learned that almost 50%, 46% of them had experienced a breach in the last 12 months. And about that same number had lost customers. And so we can't afford that as small businesses to be losing customers because of something that potentially we could have had some impact with. So, and then the other thing that was just staggering was the cost, right? Over 170,000 was the average that we learned that it was costing these businesses. For a lot of businesses, that would put us out of business. And so there's just a few things that we can do to increase that. And I'll pause here because we may get back to that. But in terms of at least the why, I think these are critical to your ability to grow and thrive.
Yeah. Well, actually, I did want to ask because I think with remote work, that became much more of a necessity, right? I mean, for lots of businesses, I'm not just in the IT space, but making sure that your connections and networks are still secure. Where was sort of the biggest gap that you saw and that businesses sort of need to address going forward?
Sure. So just think about it for a minute. I'm going to say three things. And if you did any one of these three things last year, you probably want to take a second look. One, you purchased a new desktop or a new laptop or a new iPhone or smartphone. Did anybody do that? That's one. The second, you purchased new software. Maybe you subscribed to a new online service for some tool that you needed or some product. Or three, like you were saying, Vandana, you either transitioned from the office to your home environment and you were either using your home Wi-Fi or free Wi-Fi, or you went back and you're going back and forth. If any of those three things happened to you last year, and you didn't take some basic precautions, then yes, you were probably at risk. So that's where we saw some of the gaps, right? That people were purchasing these things because it was kind of the Wild Wild West. Everybody needed stuff and not really necessarily thinking about, well, are these safe products? Are these secure products? Am I protecting myself? Basic things like just, not sharing passwords with people, right, that you work with, or what's called multi-factor authentication, which is just a really kind of geeky term for saying using more than one way to validate that you're the person logging into a particular application. A lot of these things don't cost additional money to implement, but these were some things that I think in the rush to kind of get things working, we didn't necessarily pay attention to a lot of the security.
Yeah. It's interesting. One thing that Yesham, that you guys had been talking about and looking into, which is we all acknowledge that there have been losses in terms of jobs, wages, businesses in the district, and in terms of jobs and wages at a higher rate even than in Maryland and Virginia. But there's been an interesting increase, or at least a good pace of business creation and formation, new business applications. And I'm curious why you think that is, and what you think is contributing to that in the district, because that you wouldn't expect that.
No, finally, administrative numbers and data is catching up with the impacts of COVID. And the first thing that emerged that was really surprising to me is that even though we've lost 79,000 jobs, that's like a 9% decline in employment from February 2020 to February 2021. We actually added like 3,000 new establishments. So that seemed like a puzzle. Where are these businesses coming from? So doing a deeper dive into the data, what we've learned is while many businesses closed, the pace of new business formation did not really slow down in the District of Columbia. That's not just only evident in the number of new business applications, that's now evident in the number of new business establishments. And some of these businesses are new to the district. Maybe they've moved from elsewhere into the city, but many of them are really new. And we see that majority of these businesses are businesses that have some online components, a lot of retail establishments. And it's also been interestingly sort of like a leveler experience. Now you do not need an expensive storefront to sell your goods. You do not need the capital that you needed before, but this also made the very important the access to a strong infrastructure. If you remember the stories when schools moved online, we've seen the digital divide meant that not all kids had same access to school. Maybe the broadband wasn't, strong enough to support a kid and his brother, and their parents were all now working from home. That also has the same impact for new business owners that have good ideas and good products, but maybe undercut by lack of access to infrastructure. This, again, is an important investment. And I think another thing that's really important for the district to expand these opportunities, now we have this new ideas coming in, and people are creative. They see opportunities in the pandemic that didn't exist before. But we sometimes trip them up in the District of Columbia by creating an environment where it's really hard to get a business permit, or I think Councilmember McDuffie was mentioning the clean hands stuff. In the district, if you owe the District of Columbia $100, and you could owe the District of Columbia $100 if you had your AC on and opened your window at the same time. It's against the law. You'll get a ticket. And that means that you cannot get any kind of business license or any other document from the District of Columbia government. So easing that restriction is not only a simple way and a low-cost way of supporting entrepreneurship, it's also a way to increase inclusion and diversity, because guess what? It's very predictable who will be more affected by fines and fees in the District of Columbia. It's our Black residents and brown residents. That's very sad, but it's very easy to predict. And I think the growing entrepreneurship, especially in our Black and brown communities, is a way to build wealth, and the district should do everything they can to support these businesses through capital investments, through workforce investments, through examining the regulatory regime and to see what is really needed and what can be put on a shelf for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and Vanessa, just taking everything that Yesham has just been saying, are you seeing an increased demand too, even within your office? And maybe in what sectors are you seeing more of a demand than maybe others? And what are some new things maybe that you guys are thinking about or evaluating or considering that could be new coming down the pike?
Yeah, I think one key thing that Yesham pointed out was the digital divide. When you think about people who are career changers, and I'm going from an industry that does not require me to work from home and have certain internet access and bandwidth in my house, to an industry that would afford me the opportunity to work from home, right? And we saw a lot of women who had to exit the workforce to prioritize taking care of their families versus being able to go to brick and mortar work every day. And then, as Yesham said, we're all home now. We're all trying to access the internet, and not only access the internet, but I'm also now having to support my family in a different way as a virtual school support person. And I myself might not have the knowledge that's needed to help my children navigate the internet while also looking for a job that will afford me the opportunity to be home with them. So we have implemented more IT training programs for district residents, one being focused on digital literacy and helping residents fully understand, operating the computer, operating the different operating systems, understanding operating your computer, really just, bringing them back to the basics and stair-stepping it from there, while also giving them the opportunity to earn some mid-level or lower-level credentials like Microsoft Office certifications, where I could work from home and utilize that certification and support businesses in many ways. We are also doing some entrepreneurship training, and we know that small businesses are really the heartbeat, right, of a lot of communities. And so we want to see more small businesses flourish. So in our entrepreneurship program, really walking them through what does it mean to have clean hands, walking them through the process through DCRA to get their business license, and putting that social media component really on the forefront so they also know how to promote their small businesses in a way in which they will thrive.
Yeah. One thing that we did see through this pandemic is that it did have a disproportionate effect on Black and Brown business owners. In terms of access to the PPP, the SBA's, the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program loans, to other small business emergency lending and grants, access to other traditional forms of capital, which have always been hard if you didn't have a pre-existing relationship, which isn't always the case with a lot of smaller businesses, particularly in underserved and underbanked communities. So we saw all of this as an issue. Ola, I'm curious for you, what was your experience for trying to access some of these federal programs? Did you try for a PPP? What was your experience?
So my company personally did not apply, but I will say about that, what I observed was the power of community. And to your point about access. So one of the things that I do in addition to running my cyber company is that I am an executive coach for CEOs through an organization called Vistage. And I believe Mary mentioned it in her remarks. And the stats that we had from that organization was that over 95%, or some crazy number, over 90% of the small businesses that applied, because they were part of that community, were successful in getting their PPP loans. It wasn't because they were smarter. It wasn't because it was just because they had access to others who they could reach out to say, hey, have you heard about this? Or is there a person that I can speak with? Or is there a bank that has worked for you? And that's where we saw the difference. So I love what you're doing here. My company, actually, I'm a neighbor because I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland, but we're all in the same region. So, this is an example of where helping each other helps everybody. But so I love what the chamber is doing in creating community where companies can get to know each other and help each other. And yes, I had a quick opportunity to look at the report that your organization published, and it was fascinating. And I think for me, what it says is this is an opportunity for the next generation of wealth building, right? As new entrepreneurs are starting out, whether it's because they were impacted by the pandemic or it's because they saw an opportunity or a problem to solve. But to the extent that we can create that support that Vanessa's talking about and create the community around that, absolutely. Those are all things that I think will really be helpful.
Yeah, and this is for anyone. I mean, what do you think, because that is so core, although like you said, what do you think it would take to increase access to capital, particularly to underserved and underbanked small businesses, and particularly to businesses owned by people of color?
Well, one is just awareness of where these capital funds and resources are. And so all the vehicles that we have and we can use, and we all can use our platforms to get that information out. And then secondly is, and I think every region, every county is going to have, the constraints or the red tape that can sometimes get in the way of making these things, easier to get. I mean, sometimes you feel like you have to give not just, your house and your firstborn and everything in order to get a loan, but so kind of thinking about each case as its own individual case, as opposed to like using these standards that are across the board. One size does not fit all.
Yeah. Yesham, is there anything that you wanted to talk about in terms of what you've seen work well, whether with state and local funding programs, federal, or access to capital generally, how to increase it?
I think the district, even at the beginning, with relatively small resources compared to what was then available through PPP and economic injury and disaster loans, has done a good job of being intentional, focusing on really small businesses. I think it was really important. And going back to what Ola was saying, I mean, intention has to be a part of all these program designs. I recently pulled data on how much money has flown from the federal government to the District of Columbia through, various federal actions, from the CARES Act to, I think 5 pieces of legislation has passed. When you look at the paycheck protection programs, the district received, through Main Street Paycheck Protection Program and economic disaster and injury loans, the district received close to $3 billion. And I think that the reason we cannot do a very good accounting of this is that the data collection has not been very, very strong. And I think one thing the district has to do, we talk about having a racial equity lens, but most times we do not have the data to really look through that lens. And we need to think of our systems to be able to collect this kind of data. And I know I'll say this as a researcher, it's like something maybe that's not on the forefront of people's minds, but we really need to be able to measure these things and know, exactly where the weaknesses are. The third thing I will add, and again, Ola and Vanessa both mentioned this, we talk about access to capital, but there is the access to social capital problem as well, especially afflicting women, Black and immigrant communities, who matters in terms of, if you just keep an eye on the chat and see the exchange of information, a lot of small business owners or people with good ideas do not have that access. They cannot call their college buddy and ask who to go to. That's true for accessing capital. That's true for having a good workforce. My very first job was an internet startup years ago. And, the founder hired his friend from, business school and this other friend from high school. That kind of social capital is really important. And I think that's one opportunity COVID has created, is that moving those relations online has created, there's no longer maybe, talking at a golf game. I don't know if people still do that, but now you do it on online. And I think investing in the social capital is really, really important.
Yeah. And in the chat, you may have seen there are definitely, Dominic McNear has shared some resources for funding programs as well, through his organization. And Vanessa, there was a question, I know you did answer it also in the chat, but just to bring this up for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, the question is, high-skilled jobs like cloud, cyber analytics, data science training is in demand. Why not have that at DOES and not lower skill training like Microsoft Office and desktop computer repair? What are you doing there to address sort of that? There is definitely an increasing demand for higher skilled work like that in IT, especially as, Amazon comes, especially as more tech players are joining our region.
Absolutely. I mean, we do partner with for instance, UDC to offer Amazon Web Service and other IT credentials, as well as other eligible training providers that are within the district and some that are right around the border. We also have a heavy focus on apprenticeships right now, right? So we are looking for businesses that employ individuals in these industries that have these jobs available, that are also willing to take on residents who as registered apprentices, where they can earn and learn, they can get the hands-on experience on the job and the training at the same time, because the classroom is not for everybody and there is no one size fits all. So you do have some individuals who are able to go and have the time to sit down in front of a computer and learn first. And then you have those who need that internship, that apprenticeship, that pre-apprenticeship as well. So we're also working with our DC Public Schools and OSSE to ensure we are offering pre-apprenticeship opportunities for young people even, right? Because we understand that even through recovery, you have a lot of new graduates that came out of high school last year who are also struggling to get a job, who couldn't go to traditional college, and online school is not for me. So we do have a huge focus on registered apprenticeships as well. So that areas like data scientists, I can get that hands-on because it's very specific. But registered apprenticeships, and definitely email me if you want to know more, and we can get you connected.
Yeah. What are some things or programs, initiatives, outreach that you're seeing in other parts of the city? We talked about the downtown core, of course, that is a big part of the city, but I want to go beyond that, east of the river, other areas of the district that, need just as many, if not more resources. What are you doing or seeing, or where you think the biggest need is in some of those other parts of the city? For anyone, Vanessa or Yesham, or?
There was really interesting reporting from WAMU on the impacts of the pandemic in Anacostia and other parts of Ward 8 and parts of Ward 7. And the finding was that the impact wasn't that great. And that we should remember that and never forget that. And the reason the impact wasn't so great was because the economic activity compared to the downtown area wasn't that great to begin with. And that's the most important thing. Like, we really need to shout this from the rooftops, that access to high quality jobs and high quality retail and business opportunities and business centers should be equal and easy in all parts of the city. And right now, the thing that's most important for, at least in my opinion, for increasing economic inclusivity and creating wealth is creating business opportunities and jobs in east of the river, or as council member or Mayor Gray would say, in the East End. I think the city's economic development is, certainly moving towards that, but we just really need to be mindful of the fact that access to jobs and access to high quality retail, access to opportunities all go hand in hand together. And that having opportunities in parts of the city that are now far away from it will actually help reduce displacement, because you see a brighter future closer to your house. When you look at the number, the district, 2/3 of the workforce in the District of Columbia are commuters. But a large number of residents in Ward 7 and 8 are reverse commuters. They have to go to Maryland and Virginia to their jobs. And that's, we just really need to be mindful of the fact that job opportunities are really uneven through the city.
Yeah. Vanessa, is there anything in particular that, is focused on Ward 7 and 8, for instance, that, folks should know about or can access?
Absolutely. So we actually have our American Job Center in Ward 8. It's located inside of the DCA at Pomeroy Road. where, you know, they offer services to adults, primarily federal services. But it's good that it's also located with DCIA, because you can see how you can access supportive services like child care supports, transportation support. If you're enrolled in WIOA, uniforms, things like that. And DCIA, of course, infrastructure training, training in with PEPCO. And so it's right there within the community. And we definitely want people to access it. And our talent and client services division, they work directly with businesses to get them connected to training where, you know, individuals who are coming out of the high in demand training can be connected directly to businesses who need the employees. So we do have a lot going on at the DC Infrastructure and American Job Center that is located off Palmer Road in Ward 8.
And Vandana, I would just add that in addition to the local, you know, we're right here in the nation's capital. So we're so close to all the federal agencies as well. And so for businesses who are looking to, particularly in the technical, you know, technology field, right, take advantage right now of getting to know the small business offices of these federal agencies, looking at the opportunities there. I always say, don't shy away from sending in an unsolicited proposal. You're able to do that if you have a particular product or service that you believe would help the government solve a particular problem, because there are opportunities that may exist that you might not just be seeing, you know, in your day-to-day activities. The other thing I would say is, you know, the 8A program. I don't know how many of the businesses here have done that, but in my last business, we were in the 8A program, and it was a really wonderful tool to help with growth. So if that's also something to consider as you're thinking about how to grow your company. Take advantage of the different certifications that are available to help you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ola, and thank you, Vanessa and Yeshim. Really appreciate all of your insights and advice. This was a great panel and discussion. Thanks. I appreciate you having it with us, and thank you to the Chamber.
Can I give a quick shout out for some free resources? These are government resources that I would encourage you all to check out on the cyber front. One is Department of Homeland Security. It's called the Cyber Essentials Starter Kit. So I just want to highlight that as a resource for folks to take to get started.
Thank you. And yes, please keep sharing resources in that chat. That I think it'll help everybody. But thank you again. And thanks for having me be a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Angela, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so before I introduce, we're gonna go directly to our next panel. And before I go there, I want to take a minute to recognize our sponsors this morning. So that we're putting up, but I'm gonna start. Our event sponsor is Bank of America. Our event business intelligence sponsor, the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking, DISB. Business engagement sponsor, DEMPET, the Deputy Mayor of Economic Development. Award sponsor, Fort Myer Construction. Speaker sponsor, DC Lottery. Session sponsors, DCRA, Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, and the Department of DOES. Thank you so much for your support. Our gold sponsors are Events DC and DC Health Link. And silver sponsors, Southwest Airlines. Thank you so much. And our yellow sponsors, City National Bank, J-Land Solutions, and Square Technologies, that are all members of our Small Business Committee. Thank you all so much for your support. Without your support, we could not be bringing and sharing all this great information for businesses. It really was a great panel. And, you know, I saw a lot of the discussions and questions. And in the next two panels, you're going to find in the first panel is how to start and fund your business. And you're going to hear a lot about, you know, licensing and business plans and how to fund your business and government programs that are going to help you grow. And then the next panel are opportunities for growth. That a lot of the conversation that just happened was, for example, about working with the local government, working with the federal government. And that's what we're going to talk in the next panel. How can you grow your business through certification? So stay with us. I am sure if you're a small startup, growing business, or a large business, you're going to find some great information for you. So now I would like to introduce our next moderator of the moderator of our second panel. The name of the workshop is How to Start and Fund Your Business. You have an incredible moderator, because we could not have anybody better than Commissioner Karima Woods with the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. So this panel is, if you want to start your business, or if you're looking into funding business, if you're in the early stages, this is a perfect panel for you. Please ask questions, continue the dialogue. I love all the chatting conversation that we're having here. We are a family here. We're here to help you. And I really hope you're feeling that, because what we wanted to bring was great information for you, because we're here because we want to see you succeed. We want to see you grow. So Karima, Commissioner Woods, thank you so much for being here, for your support. And I'll leave you in great.
Great. Thank you so much,
Enjoy
Angela.
the conversation.
Absolutely. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. If not, please let me know. Good morning, everyone. And I'm so excited about today's panel. I will begin talking because I know we're short on time as my panelists shortly join us. I see there's Pi, and I know that the other panelists are anxious to come on as well. Excellent. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. I think that after the panel we just heard on economic recovery, there's a lot to discuss in this next panel on how to start and fund your business. I am Karima Woods, Commissioner of the District's Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, and I am quite pleased to join the Chamber for another year for this very important Small Business Summit. I look forward to it every year because I know it happens during Small Business Week, and so lots to share and discuss here. So again, thank you. A little bit about the department. For those that don't know, we are a regulatory agency. We're charged with overseeing the financial services entities that impact the lives of residents here in the district, and that also impact the lives of businesses here in the district. Our charge is really to educate and empower residents and business owners around their financial health and well-being. And I know there's been a lot of discussion today about the importance of wealth building. And one of the ways in which you go about doing that is through business ownership. And so anxious to talk more today about how to start and fund your business. In the interest of time, I am going to cut out my full spiel so that we can hear from this very esteemed panelist. First, we have Ernest Trappa, who is the Director of the DC Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs. Aaron Fenwick, who works with me at DISB and is our program analyst that runs our DC BizCap program, and he'll share more about that. Harold Pettigrew, who is the Executive Director of the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, also known as WAKIF, and Pi Nguyen, who is the Senior Small Business Banker with Bank of America. Thank you all for being here today and for sharing your expertise on our panel discussion this morning. I'm going to invite each of you to provide brief remarks, 2 to 3 minutes, and then I will pose a few questions for each of you so that we can have an engaging and lively discussion this morning. And so with that, I am going to start with you, Ernest, if you can provide some brief remarks as we get started.
Thank you, Commissioner Woods, and good afternoon, or are we still in morning? Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to connect with you, particularly in talking about how to help small businesses succeed. As the Commissioner mentioned, I'm the Director of DCRA, an agency that I would like to think some of you are probably a little familiar with. We oversee business activity and construction in the district, and we do so by providing permits, licensing, inspection, and enforcement services. For the last couple of years, we've been on a digital transformation, and that has helped us improve our service delivery. In so doing, we've also learned about new opportunities where we can help small businesses in particular not just start, but also sustain the operations that they are set up. So I'm excited to talk about some of the initiatives we have. I'll leave you with two to keep in mind. Last month, we published changes to the regulations that will cut the fees for home-based businesses by 75%, and also introduce a new class that would allow entrepreneurs to get a 6-month or a pop-up style business license instead of a full 2-year license. And these are just parts of the broader effort by the Mayor Bowser administration to help small businesses succeed. So I look forward to this panel and hear about different ways we can support you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ernest. Next, we'll hear from Aaron.
Good morning. Good morning. And first off, thank you, Commissioner Wood, for your leadership as well as support for this event. I might also like to thank the DC Chamber for your partnership and all you do to support the district community. My name is Aaron Fenwick. I'm the program analyst for the DC BizCap Loan Program. And as the program analyst, my role is to help small business owners access capital through partnerships with commercial lending institutions. The DC BizCap is a support program that was established in 2010 to combat the effects of the 2008 economic downturn. Essentially what it does is it provides lending enhancements to banks so they can more easily lend to small businesses who are local employers. The goal is to create jobs, and we understand that we can do so easiest through supporting our small business owners who create our jobs in our local markets.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Next, we'll hear from Harold.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Pleasure to be here with you and to see friends on this panel that I haven't seen in quite a while, and friends as well attending the conference. I look forward to seeing you all in person where we can do this again, for sure. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the DC Chamber, of course, for pulling this event together when we all need to be connected. I have the pleasure of serving as CEO for WAKIF, the Washington Area Community Investment Fund. WAKIF is a friend to many of you, has been around for 34 years, investing across the city and across the region. Our specific focus is investing small business resources with a lens towards entrepreneurs of color. We invest, and it was great to hear in the last panel about the notions of different types of capital, because our approach to impact is to invest in the knowledge capital, social capital, and financial capital of entrepreneurs to help them succeed. And so for us, it's important to make sure that advisory services are adequate and available, that different programs are available to make entrepreneurship more accessible. And then, of course, financial capital, which we're known for. We are CDFI. And what that means, you may have heard that term more over the last 18 months or so, is that we're a mission-based lender. And so our focus is investing in people. It's not simply about the dollars and cents. It's not simply about you repaying a loan or something like that. It's really investing and having partnership with the small businesses that we work with. And so thank you for having me today. I'll end it there so we can get to some of the questions and things.
Absolutely. Thank you, Harold. Next, we'll hear from Pi.
All right, thank you so much, Karima. Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be, as part of this panel this morning, and it's also a pleasure to be here and also be able to share, some of the useful information to our small business owners. Again, my name is P.A. Wynn. I'm the small business banker here and also a lender here in the greater Washington, D.C. area for Bank of America. I'm very passionate when it comes to our small business clients and small business, because small businesses are the backbone of this country's economy. And I really love working with a small business owner on a one-on-one, basic as their trusted advisor and each and every day, because I have so much respect for them and for their courage and to be able to risk everything to start their business and to run their businesses. Especially with what happened recently with the COVID-19, that caused truly unexpected and unprecedented environment. And if not all of it, most of our small business owners had to pivot and change their way of doing things, especially in this environment. So it's really goes to show the resiliency and the courage to continue the businesses. So I'm really happy to be here and really great to be here to be able to share some of these advices for small business owners.
Thank you, PA, and I stand corrected on the correct pronunciation of your name. With that, I think we've heard a lot thus far, and as was just shared, there's a lot of risk involved in starting a business. It takes a lot of courage. Some would say it takes a lot of chutzpah to really get out there and start your own business and to make it successful. So with that, if each of the panelists, in no particular order, can share what are some of the considerations that any new person would need to consider when thinking about opening up a business here in the district. And feel free to just unmute yourself if you want to start. Harold, if you want to go ahead.
Happy to kick off. And so, I think there's a couple things to consider, right? We're in a very different environment. If you have a job, keep your job. Let me say that first. I'm a DCRA alum, and I know Ernest has a yeoman's job. What you don't want to do is go get a license and then say you got a business, quit your job, and then kind of start, right? I often start there because the energy and excitement around entrepreneurship often drives the big steps without the planning. Planning is key. Planning is important. And one of the things that PA mentioned earlier about being a trusted advisor is that there's resources available to you. There's resources available for free to help you explore what it is that you want to do business planning wise. So of course, develop your plan, pressure test your plan. Talk to trusted advisors about your planning to make sure you're walking down the right path. For WakeIF as an organization, it's key for us because we're entering into partnership to make sure you've thought through some of your different approaches. We've had plenty of cases where we've had folks come to us requesting a loan. We turned them down. We said no, but the but part of that is important because typically what we like to do is lay out, here's the steps you need to follow. Here's the steps that will help you to be successful. And we've had plenty of entrepreneurs to come back after walking through those different steps. They may go over to Ernest for the Small Business Resource Center or to other resources here in the city to refine their plans, come back to us for capital, then it becomes a workable relationship. So I can't stress enough planning is key. It's important, particularly where you have an environment where small businesses across the board, particularly ones who already started, are also in deep need. So just to land that point there.
Thank you, Harold, and a very important point. Does anyone else want to chime in on that particular question?
I'll also echo that message. I mean, I think planning is the most important aspect of starting a business and oftentimes the most forgotten aspect of starting a business. And when you plan, you need to think of a few things. One, what are you providing? Are you providing a service? Are you selling a good? Or what is that? What does it look like? How are you going to provide it? We just stepped in. We're in a COVID environment right now. We hear about pivot all the time. We heard it multiple times on this call today. And what we've had to learn is if I have a brick and mortar store, what other delivery services can I provide to continue to provide my good and services? So how do you provide that service or good that you're providing? Who is it for? Who's my customer bases? Are my customer bases businesses? Are my customer bases individuals? And how do I reach those individuals? What's the opportunity or the income associated with my business? Many of us are in business for passion, but all of us are in business for income. So we've got to determine what the opportunity is. How do we monetize that good or service that we provide? And what is it going to cost you? I think this is oftentimes one of the most forgotten aspects of our business planning. Certainly we think about how much money we can make. We think about what our goods are, but what is it going to cost you to do that? What are the expenses associated with my business? And what impact does that have on my ability to operate? Lastly, what I would say, you measure these things on an annual basis or more, and then we rinse and repeat.
Excellent. All very important points. So I've heard planning, I've heard making sure that you weigh the costs and understand the product and service that you're providing. Does anyone else want to chime in on this particular question?
Sure, I'll jump in there. And certainly, Harold mentioned DCRA has a Small Business Resource Center to assist you figure things out, whatever the scope you are considering, whether it's a business plan. But I would like to share a perspective from an entrepreneurship standpoint, do you actually have a customer or do you have customers? Because while you may be anxious to get a license or a permit from DCRA, if I had to speak to you on a one-on-one basis, I ask you, who is your customer? Do you have like a market for your product or the service? And are they willing to pay the price that you have? If you have those things in place, we'll do everything we can to expedite your permit or license. But if you don't have that, I'll say, no, go rethink this.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that that advice, Ernest. And I'm going to come back to you to expand on some of what you said. PA, do you want to share your perspective as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are great points so far. One thing I would definitely add to is just to make sure as you're starting out, whoever your advisor is, whether if it's your banker, your attorney, your CPA, accountant, who's helping you set up the LLC, corporation, whatever the case is, always make sure that you stay in touch with them, and you continue as you continue to grow your business, as you think about ways to expand your business, because these are the people that you can really trust as your trusted advisor that can provide you with a great advice, and as well as reaching out to potentially mentor programs. There's a lot of mentor programs that are available in the local area as well as nationally. So that's something that I would definitely add to the conversation.
Great. Thank you, PA, and thank you all for responding to that question. I want to build off of something that you shared, Ernest, and that I've heard repeatedly, and that's around the importance of business licenses. We all know that if you want to start and open up a business here in the district, getting the proper licenses that you need is essential. And we all know that at some point you have to go through DCRA. So Ernest, if you could expand upon what type of licenses are needed when opening a business, and also share the role of DCRA in supporting startups.
Generally, you will need a basic business license. Pretty much anything that you want to do, where there will be some exchange of money. Let's start from there. And the type of license you will need will depend on the business activity that you plan on conducting. So we have categories to help entrepreneurs or people who want to start a business self-identify where they fall. And obviously we have staff that can help you. So think of food service as for restaurants. Think of general service or general sales, or think of rental housing for those who want to get into the business of renting out a property. So overall, there are 13 broad categories, and the nature of the activity you want to conduct would determine what category you fall under. And if you have some questions about which category you even fall under, on my DC Business Center, you'll be able to take advantage of a wizard, which will ask you a few questions and point you in the right direction. As it relates to the role of DCRA, it comes from our mission, and that is to protect the health, safety, and the big part for me really is the economic interest of residents and business owners and visitors to the District of Columbia. So what we do to protect the economic interest includes strategies around making it easy to start a business and easier to stay in business. I outlined earlier on some of the regulations that we've proposed to cut fees for home-based businesses. That's something that we saw during the pandemic. With Book Up at Home, they came up with all kinds of ideas, and people are having virtual operations. So you don't really need that physical storefront to pursue your idea. And that's just one small way that we are helping people start, and those who want to expand their business into the virtual realm, making it easier for them.
Excellent. Thanks for responding to that. Could you share the website for the Business Wizard?
Simply go to dcra.dc.gov, and then you see so many items, residence or business. Once you click on business, it will take you to the My DC Business Center.
Great, thank you, Ernest. The next question I want to direct to you, Harold, and that's really about funding. We hear about it all the time. We know that part of the planning process of starting a new business should include understanding where you're going to get your funding from. And so if you could expand upon what kind of funding is available for startups here in the district.
Absolutely, Karima. And I should note, I meant to say in the very beginning as well, I do have a hard stop at noon. My apologies.
Understood.
So for funding, I typically like to be very real here. If you're starting up, it's tough. I always like to go through this exercise, right? Like if your random cousin came and asked you for $100,000, you got some extra cash under the couch cushion to give out to lend. You know, what would be some of the questions and things that you would ask of that random cousin? When are you gonna get your money back? What are you gonna do with the money? There's a lot of things that individually you would ask. As institutions, we look for the very same thing. And often it comes back to the relationship that's in place. It comes back to your track record. It comes back to what you plan on doing and that you have careful understanding, but that you've understood your marketplace and what you're going to sell and the product, you have a strategy for it. There's a lot of things that come back to the points we talked about earlier, which is first the planning. And so for us, what's important is not simply to deploy cash, it's to invest in you as an entrepreneur. And so we've had instances where our success point was actually helping a business to reposition what they were doing. They didn't need to take on debt. They just needed to reposition how they were actually doing business, reduce some expenses, and think strategically about what plans they had in place. So I often push folks to really put a lot of emphasis on the relationships that you are going to need for the future. Start early with establishing the relationship. This is often counterintuitive, but don't seek money necessarily when you need it. Establish the relationship before, because it becomes a bit more difficult. We've had instances where people will come to us, say they need capital by Friday, and it's Friday, you know, and it becomes a bit impossible because there's a lot of uncertainty there, because there's uncertainty that got you into position and also uncertainty about after Friday, whether you'll be able to repay. So I often just lean, Karima, on telling folks to, one, invest in relationships prior to when you need it. Two, planning, particularly if you're starting up. And make sure that you're identifying, if you're taking on debt, how you plan on using that debt strategically so you can grow your company.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you, Harold. And just to expand on this, and I'm going to direct this question to you, PA. Harold talked about the importance of a relationship with the financial institution. And oftentimes in talking with small business owners and startups, many of them may not have a relationship with a financial institution. Many of them may not know how to go about developing one. So can you expand upon what does a financial institution look for when looking at the possibilities of giving a loan to a business?
Yeah, absolutely, Karima. So again, you know, as Harold said, it's tough for startups to, you know, finance their startups, and for the most part, most institutions will not, you know, finance a startup unless they have, you know, if it's a certain category. So, for example, here at Bank of America, we have a division called Practice Solutions Division that cater to our doctors, veterinarians, and as well as dentist clients. And these, you know, and we have this unique division to help these clients, even if it's a startup, and they can get funding from this program. But in terms of, you know, generally speaking, what, you know, financial institutions look for, you know, when we're reviewing these loan requests is we have, well, it's not just for Bank of America, but this is for pretty much any institution, the 5 C's. So, and I'll talk briefly about each of these C's, and starting with what is called the capacity. And these are in any orders of importance, but, you know, I just wanted to make sure that we review each one of them. So starting off the capacity. So what this basically means, this is the ability of the borrower to repay the loan. So what lenders look at here is, you know, they measure the cash flow of the business. So when we're talking about the cash flow, we're looking at about at least 2 years in history, and that's the very minimum to understand where the business is, how the business is doing, for the financial institution to be able to understand, the risk of being able to lend to this. And often in most cases, the financial institution will look at not only the small business but also the business owners, and we simply call it the global cash flow. So we look at both the cash flow of the business as well as the owners. The next C is the capital. So basically, this is the money that you have invested in your business. So how much you have in your business. The lenders like to look at that because the lenders want to know, again, going back to the risk perspective, how much skin does the owner really, or the business owner really have in the game, right? And the next C is the collateral. So this is where if you're financing, for example, owner-occupied commercial real estate, or if you're financing equipment, and this helps the lender be able to identify also the secondary source of repayment if you're unable to make the payments. And some lenders also consider, as part of the collateral, accounts receivables. And a lot of businesses have, accounts receivables, inventory, and even the monthly credit card receipt as a collateral. Conditions. Again, we're all in certain conditions where, we can control, and especially for small business owners. So such as economy, the trend in the industry, pending legislation, relative to your businesses. So these are all conditions that the bank consider. However, a lot of, and as often, and as we recently see with the COVID, these are often out of your control. But what it does is it does affect your ability to make the payments on these loans. But it is a critical measure, when financial institutions are looking to, lend money to the borrowers. And last but not least is the character. So this is where your work experience, your experience in industry, this is really important. And very important point here, your personal credit history. So these are all the traits, the financial institution will consider. And these factors help us determine your personal integrity and good standing. And integrity and good standing is, basically closely tied to the success of their business history. So it's critically important. So those are the 5 C's. But there's one thing I also wanted to add to that. Is the last piece is communication. So this is basically your willingness to communicate openly. Again, going back to your advisor, whether if it's your banker, whether if it's your attorney, whether if it's your CPAs, make sure that you openly communicate them about the opportunities and challenges your business face. And this will only bring you more of a productive partnership, with your advisors. So if you have, for example, if you have some challenges or credit challenges in the past, make sure you come upfront to whether if it's your banker, whoever your advisor is. So the communication is truly the key, is to make sure that you can get the support that you need from your advisor, and they can provide you with the proper advice.
Excellent, PA. Thank you for sharing the 5 C's plus 1. And so hopefully those listening were able to get that information. I want to expand upon a couple of points, and Harold, we will be done before 12. And so I'll punt this next question to you and to PA, because we've heard a lot about different types of lending. But I think it will be helpful for the audience if the both of you can expand upon the difference between traditional lending and non-traditional lending.
Yeah, I'll start off. So, I mean, when it comes to traditional lending, basically it's what you hear is what you get, right? So you going into, financial institution, or you go into your bank and say, hey, look, I need to borrow X amount of dollars to, to purchase a truck for my business, or, to purchase my commercial, my business, my commercial real estate, whatever the case is. Again, going back to, we obviously going to definitely look at the 5 C's, as I mentioned earlier, but as it's a critical component of, of the financial analysis, the 5 C's are, again, very important. So this is traditional lending. Will require at least, again, 2 years at the very minimum, as far as but in most cases, especially in SBA loans, even up to 3 years. So this would be, traditional type of lending, going into a bank, asking for a loan, again, looking at the cash flow, looking at the cash flow history, pulling the credit report. So these are all, part of the traditional process.
Great, thank you. Harold, can you add to that?
Absolutely. And so thank you for it. I know someone noted what a community development financial institution is, describing that. And typically the way I like to articulate it is if a nonprofit and a bank had a baby, that's us. And so we are what's called alternative lending, but we're part of a larger industry of CDFIs across the country who are basically working with folks who can't get to PA because of the constraints that they have as an institution, because they're a regulated institution. There's a heavy regulatory environment around banks, depository institutions. We're not that. We're what's called an unregulated revolving loan fund. And basically, we raise capital to invest in those that can't access traditional capital. If you can access traditional capital, we want you there. And so typically you go to PA, he can't work with you because of a certain set of constraints. That's when you would come to us and we would look to work with you to identify what some of those challenges were. It might be your credit score. It might be other factors that are involved in your credit history. We won't deny you for that, for simply having a low credit score. We want to understand the story. For many entrepreneurs, they start their business using credit cards. We want to know, and to PA's point, that you're forthright just about what your spending habits are and all of those things, because it's a relationship. But we want to know that it's because you were investing in your business, not simply because you just didn't want to pay your bills, right? And that's an important point. And so for us, it's we invest for those who can't typically access traditional capital, and making sure that there are capital resources available, because we know, particularly for entrepreneurs of color, that's a challenge. And I don't have to spout the stats for all of us to connect to that particular point. And so we specialize particularly investing in entrepreneurs of color, women entrepreneurs of color.
Excellent, thank you. And I do want to expand upon that in the next question, which is actually my last question. So I'm directing this question to you, Aaron, and then for the other panelists, if you also want to chime in, feel free to do so. One of the C's that PA mentioned was collateral. And so if you could expand upon the type of lending programs that are available to support funding small businesses and startups here in the district, particularly the DC BizCap program that you referenced earlier.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Commissioner Woods, and thank you, PA, for kind of leading us down this lane here. You talked about 5 C's of the 5 C's of credit. I'm going to kind of lean in on 3 of those, though. Commissioner Woods mentioned collateral, but we've also got capacity, which is your cash flow, your ability to repay, as well as the capital, which may be your down payment or funds that you have on hand. So our program is designed to really combat or to enhance all of those issues if they're an issue for you. I'll start with collateral. We've got a collateral support program that essentially provides cash collateral in the case that you don't have enough collateral to support the credit request. What we can do is we deposit that cash in a bank account for the bank or lender to put a hold on and use that as collateral. We can give up to $1 million, no more than 50% of the loan. So to put that in context, if you need $1 million, your loan would be $2 million or more. If we scaled that, if you needed $100,000, let's say, your support will be no more than $50,000. And that support is good for up to 84 months or the term of the loan. We're going to shift a little bit over and we're going to talk about the cash flow piece, which is also the capacity piece in the 5 C's of credit. So if you have an issue with cash flow, you're slightly below the bank's requirements, you need some assistance, we can subsidize your interest rate by participating with the lender. Basically what that means is after the loan is settled, we buy back half of the loan, up to half of the loan, or 50% of the loan from that lender. And we could do that at subsidized interest rate if you meet certain economic conditions. Those economic conditions include, are you a CBE or minority or woman-owned business? Do you live in a great, or do you operate in a great street or low-income census tract? And do you provide jobs to district residents, which includes hard-to-hire district residents? If you do any one of those incentives, it allows us to reduce your interest rate on the participated portion by half of what the rate the original bank was charging you. So I'll give an example. If you were to go to Wyckoff and Wyckoff was to charge 8% on a transaction or a fee for the loan, we participate on that and we cut that rate in half that we participate in, and that rate would be 4%, which can be a dramatic savings for you when you're looking at getting the loan. And it may be the difference between it getting approved and not getting approved. Lastly, we talked about your down payment or capital. The Innovation Finance Program is a phenomenal program that allows us to innovatively fund the district's businesses. We do that with a joint relationship with other lenders. We work with 11 lenders in the district, and we can provide assistance for down payment. We can provide assistance for build out and a slew of other things. And what I'll say to you is the DC BizCap program is really a program that was designed to help folks that are having slight issues getting over the hump of lenders. Lending. We're not a direct lender, so you still would need to work with the bank. And again, we've got 11 that we would work with. Wyckoff is one of those. But we help you to direct you to a lender, help you get your loan package together, and give you the credit enhancement that you would need to get to pursue the approval you're looking for.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron, for sharing that very important information. Does anyone else want to chime in on that quickly? If not, go ahead.
Just really quickly, Karima, just to say, this as well as part of the planning process that I would actually highly recommend as well. The city is wonderful with resources here. And it's hard sometimes as an entrepreneur to see actually the amount of work that the Bowser administration puts into creating new resources. But I'm gonna tell you, DC is a resource-rich environment in comparison to many other places around the country. And so I highly would advise all of you, whether you're in business or just starting, to do your research because there's a lot of resources available. And the more ready you are to take advantage of those resources, the better you will be.
Well said, Harold, and thank you very much. And you are right. We are a resource-rich environment. And so we hope that whether you are a startup or an established business, that you found the information shared today beneficial. I'm going to ask each of the panelists if you can provide your contact information in the chat for those that want to reach out to you and get more information about your programs, if you could do so. With that, we have come to the end of our time together. I think there's been a lot of valuable and rich information shared, and hopefully it's going to help many of you to not only start a business, but to expand your business here in the district. With that, again, thank you to the Chamber for putting together such an esteemed panel, and thank you all for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of the summit.
Well, what an amazing panel. Thank you so much for that great information. And I'm excited that that we're learning together. The last thing I want to say before I introduce our next speaker is that you are not alone. We're on this together, and we are here to help you. This is your chamber, and it's here to help you. Now I would like to introduce Nicole Jordan and Luis Rendon from DC Lottery. They're going to share with us how to enhance your business with sports betting. Nicole Jordan is the Director of Marketing and Communications at DC Lottery, and Luis Rendon is the Investigations and Enforcement Officer at DC Lottery. So thank you so much. And then after this presentation, we'll go to our last panel. That is, both of these next panels are going to be amazing. So stay with us. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Luis, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Over to you. And Nicole, I'm gonna say hello to Nicole.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have a lot of energy here, so I'm gonna turn it over to you to keep them.
Great, thank you so much.
Going. Thank you so much.
So good morning. It is a pleasure for us to be here once again, just to have the opportunity to talk to the council. We'll do this very briefly. Our conversation will be about how to enhance your business with sports betting. So just so everyone is a little clear about what you can see, just want to make sure that we're talking about what is the Office of Lottery and Gaming. So the Office of Lottery and Gaming is formerly known, as you know, as the Office of Lottery and Charitable Games. And it's the regulatory body that is over all licensed gaming within the District of Columbia. And that includes the lottery charitable games, and sports wagering, and now even games of skills. And our goal is really, we strive to regulate and operate in a manner that fosters public confidence and trust in the integrity of the gaming operations in the district. And so I'm actually going to turn this portion of the presentation over to my colleague, Mr. Rendon, who will talk about our privately operated sports betting.
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. Again, my name is Luis Rendon. I'm the Investigations and Enforcement Officer for the Office of Lottery and Gaming. As you may know, legalized sports wagering became live in May 2019, and the OOG regulates privately operated sportsbook. We also do the licensing process for the applicants, and we monitor the operations for the operators here in DC. Specifically speaking about small businesses, which may include restaurant, bars, and potentially gas stations, believe it or not, those are what we call Class B operators. Class B operators, small businesses who want to engage in sports wagering and want to open up a sports book. And some of that criteria entails basically that you cannot only be a sports book, but you have to be in business with, again, a bar, restaurant, or a business of your choice in DC. The license fee for becoming a Class B operator is typically $100,000 unless you have a joint venture in which your price reduction is up to $25,000. And people are always asking, what do I need to do to open up a sports books? There are so many bars and restaurants in DC, and I'm a local DC restaurant resident, so I know. But if you want to open up a sports book, you do have to have experience. We do ask that applicants have experience, or they partner with a management service provider that has experience. And if you do apply, we're going to look at certain things into our due diligence background investigation for the applicant, which is the and for the key personnel of that company. We look for credit history reviews. We look at the financial stability for the entity that encompasses taxes, financial statements. We look at your criminal history. We look at any civil litigation that you may have had, civil compliance checks of any tax liens or delinquent accounts. And again, the major thing is what kind of experience you have in running a sports book. And I've put several times the OLG's website up there. So if you have any questions in regards to how to start a sports wagering or sports betting operation in DC, there are plenty of informative details on our website. And as most of you may know, William Hill is operating already as our first Class A operator over at Capital One Arena. So if you're interested and you want to peek your head in to see what a sports book looks like, Capitol Hill is up and running. Capital One Arena is up and running. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. I'll put my information up on the chat, and we're happy to answer any questions. We have over 30 applicants right now for operators and suppliers in DC, so we're pretty busy. So please let us know if you're interested, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. So we've now heard about what is happening on the private operators side. And as we indicated, there are several resources available on our website that would allow you to get information about that. And as part of that, we also make sure that the Office of Lottery and Gaming is really about building capacity within the district. And so we do want to invite everyone to an event that we'll be having, and it's a UNLV Powell session, and it's about marketing and development. We have someone from William Hill, so please visit our website to register for that as well. But I really want to now talk about something very exciting, which is the lottery operated sportsbook, Gambit DC. I know all of you know it, have been to that. So Gambit DC, it's sports only better. It is the DC Lotteries operated sports betting year. We launched in the middle of the pandemic with limited sports, but we are very excited about where we have gone and where we're going. And more importantly, that all the proceeds that come from the Gambit DC and from the DC Lottery goes to the general fund. So about 50% of what we are bringing in is going directly back into the city to help for those city services. And that's very important as we talk about our book. So I just want to show this, and hopefully it plays very quickly, which is not available on the mobile web or option. This is a very familiar technology if you're used to looking and playing with the DC Lottery. So these are very similar to our self-service kiosks that are already in our DC Lottery retailers. And for local businesses, this isn't a way to enhance your current operations. And because of the size of the footprint, it's a way to bring someone in. It's about the size of an ATM. And so really about an overview of what our program is, it follows all the regulations of sports betting in the district and is regulated by the regulatory side of the Office of Lottery and Gaming. It's going to be all locations. You must be licensed by the DC Lottery. And the lottery manages and owns the sports book. And we will operate very similar to the traditional retailer model that we have. We will be having a phased-in approach at launch, and so we'll have limited locations in the district, but we'll grow. And you will have a security and operations plans that will be approved by the lottery and regulated by our Office of Lottery and Gaming. So why do you want to become a Gambit DC retailer? Well, just like anything else, as we mentioned, and you heard my colleagues speak about what it takes to become a private operator, this is a way to bring sports betting to your organization in a no-risk model. You'll get a commission on sales and cashing of all lottery products, because in order to be a Gambit DC retailer, you must also be a DC Lottery retailer. You'll see increased traffic flow, and actually you'll have a competitive advantage about all of those in there. You'll get to offer your customer a different product, and you'll have a reason for people to come to your establishment. We give you state-of-the-art equipment, which you just saw. And more importantly, we help you through the process. So we have sales reps that will help you in the marketing. We will do the training. We provide the supplies. We do all of that at no cost. You'll be able to get technical support via phone 7 days a week, almost 360 fully in the District of Columbia. And you also have to have some other purpose of a business other than just the sale of sports betting. You must be able to pass a clean hands check. You must obtain our wager license, a sports wagering license, and the application for that is pending, and you can find that on our website. It is for a 2-year license, and the fee for that is $5,000. You also must be able to obtain a DC Lottery license, and you must comply with all the American Disability Acts. So to learn more about all the criteria and how to apply, please visit our website, or you can meet us in the exhibit space. So what is next? We are just very excited that Gambit DC will be able to be out in the retail environment, and we're looking to provide more resources to the city, and we hope to continue to grow the book. Right now, I'm going to put up our kind of contact information, and if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are also in the exhibit space. We have our colleagues there that can also answer any questions that you can have. But ultimately, sports betting, as well as all gaming in the district, we want to make sure that it's an entertainment fund, that it's an opportunity for businesses to have additional lines of revenue, and to really think at the end of the day, we want to make sure that there is a structure within the district, and that those funds and dollars go back to our general fund to help our community. So if there's any questions, we are willing and able to take those. I'm going to stop sharing. Well, hearing none of those questions, I spoke very fast to try to speed us up on certain time. I think that we are going to move into, actually, before I leave, I'm going to ask my colleague, did you have anything else that you would like to bring on or bring forth?
Yeah, Nicole, there's in the chat.
Okay,
I didn't mean to interrupt. Yes.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to make you aware.
Okay, let's see if I can see the chat. General chat, I've seen a lot of persons complaining online review. Let's see, what's it say? Okay, so I will answer this question. It is a very great question. The question is about regarding online reviews of Gambit DC, as well as questions regarding the experience. So for us, we have been in operations for over a year, and we have tons and tons of players who are having wonderful experiences with that. As that being said, we were the first book to launch. And so, of course, there were opportunities for us to make sure that we're educating our consumers about how to use the app. And so within the District of Columbia, even within the private operated and the public, so the DC Lottery operated, there's certain locations in which you can play, and that's based on regulatory sides. And so what we had to do is make sure we educate our consumers about where to play Gambit DC and where they can bet and give them opportunities. So some of the things that you saw may have been things such as, oh, I can't geolocate, or the app is saying they can't find me. And so we've done a great amount of work to make sure we educate our consumers about things that they should do, which are, if you are, and all of us, if you're going to be playing on any of our apps, to make sure that when something pops up on your phone that says, can I be allowed to play in this specific area, that you say yes, so that we can make sure that you're within the District of Columbia. Because Gambit DC, of course, can only be played within the District of Columbia. And so we need to make sure we know that you're of age and where you are located. So those are things that we have definitely made sure that we've gone to educate our consumers are. We are continuously updating and improving our app, but we are very excited that we have over 10,000 customers who are very excited and happy and playing daily, and we are bringing in that money for the city. So the question regarding how do we continue to, we always continue to enhance our products for our programs and for our customers. But I think what we have done is really went on an education, and you'll see much more of that as we begin to open up about where you can play, how you can play, things about banking and how you can fund.
Yeah, so I'll continue with it, but
Thank you.
yeah, just to piggyback off Nicole, again, if you have further inquiries about either the privately operated sports wagering site in DC or the lottery operated and retail locations and criterias, please, we put some of the sites up on the chat, and I'll share our contact information with you guys, just so you guys have it. And we're always available to answer, so thank you very much.
Thank you for jumping in for me. I don't know what happened, but I know that you concluded that well for us. And as we indicated, sports betting is in the district. We're very excited about that, and we're excited about where it's going to go, and that that it is operated in a meaningful way and regulated by our wonderful team. So at this time, I will go and move on and actually introduce our next speaker. And the moderator of the next panel, and that's Ms. Ronette Myers. And she is the president and CEO of J-Lin Solutions, a leading provider of management, training, and information technology services to the federal, state, and local government. After an extensive career as a federal employee, Ms. Myers helped found a small woman-owned government contracting firm and serves as the vice president of corporate service there. She was an integral part of the company's development and awarding the business with over $34 million in annual revenue. In 2010, after honing her executive experience and leadership skills, she took the leap and founded her own firm, which is J-Lin Solutions, LLC, which I found out today was based after naming after her children. And so J-Lin now serves numerous federal and government agencies. Mrs. Myers' leadership and stellar reputation for integrity and quality service has earned her numerous accolades, including the Washington Business Journal 2020 Minority Business Leader Award, the DC Chamber of Commerce 2020 Business and Champions Award, the DC Department of Small and Local Business 2018 Certified Business Enterprise of the Year and Award, and is accepted into the highly selective Golden Shacks 10K Small Business Program. Among her philanthropic activities are serving on a board of Dreaming Out Loud Foundation, the Bishop, and she supports the Wounded Warriors, Project Give Back, Grant AD, Luke's Wings, E.L. Hines Public Charter School, and many other charitable organizations. So she will be here as the moderator of the next panel, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Ronette Myers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me now. It is an honor to be here today, and thank you so much, Nicole, for that wonderful introduction. As we wait for our panelists to join us, I will just go ahead with the introduction. As she stated, yes, I'm Ronette Myers, President and CEO of J-Lin Solutions, a government contracting firm located in the District of Columbia. I will be your moderator for this afternoon's session, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to today's panel, Growing Your Business. Great. And it's not every day that we hit we are hit with a global pandemic. The effects of COVID-19 have been dramatic and unprecedented as cities shut down major parts of their economies to control the spread of the virus. A national survey was conducted in more than 5,000 small businesses. They found that 43% of respondents had temporarily closed their business by the end of March of 2020. So as we discuss with our panel today, we're going to talk about some steps that we as small businesses or people getting started in their business should take to grow, survive, thrive in their business, as Director Whitfield said earlier. We also want to talk about what certifications are required to do business. And what are some growth strategies to help our companies grow? And what type of organizations are out there to help us? So join me in welcoming our wonderful panel today. We have Candace Miles. She is the Supervisory Business Opportunity Specialist from the Washington Metropolitan Area District Office of the Small Business Administration, SBA. We also have Melissa Rezel. She serves as the Business Certification Manager for the Certified Business Enterprise Program within the District of Columbia's DC's Department of Small, Local, and Business Development. We also have Andreas Haynes. He is the Director of International Trade and Commerce for the District of Columbia at the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. And we have Sandra Eberhard. She is the President and CEO of WeBEC, Metro New York and Greater DMV, a regional affiliate of the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, WeBank. And then we have Tony Marks, who is the Director of MBDA, Federal Procurement Centers of the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council. So welcome everybody. It is so wonderful to have you all here. We're going to start off with Candace Miles from the SBA. Candace, welcome and thank you. If you don't mind, can you just give us a high-level overview of the different certification programs that are available through the SBA?
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for hosting us this afternoon, the DC Chamber of Commerce. And Ronette, thank you for being the leader of this esteemed panel. I'm happy to participate and answer those questions for you. With the Small Business Administration, we do have set aside programs that help people to grow in federal government contracting. The 4 certification programs that we have are our 8A Business Development Program, which is for socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. We also have our Women-Owned Small Business Certification Program, which has gone through some recent program updates. I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. We also have our Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Business Program, and we have our Hub Zone program, which is historically underutilized business zones. And the Hub Zone program is all of our programs are really awesome programs that help small businesses to scale and grow through federal government contracting.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm an 8A, I'm a woman-owned small business. I'm a certified Hub Zone. How important is it for companies to be prepared before applying for these certifications and preparing for growth?
Well, preparation is key because you want to be able to take advantage of the different set-aside categories. Selling to the federal government, we're definitely the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. And dealing with us is a little bit like dealing with alphabet soup. It's not the exact same as operating in the commercial sector or operating when you're selling from individual to individual. So to be prepared for federal government contracting, things that I recommend include understanding what past performance is. In the federal government, generally, if you have not done it, you do not do it. So you want to be able to talk about your experience in the private or commercial sector and to be able to clearly translate that into language that the federal government understands. What services do you offer, and how can your services help to enhance not just the federal government, but that specific agency's mission? And so being prepared means being able to identify clearly the products and services that you offer and how you'll be able to help an agency meet their mission. I think that it's also extremely important to narrow down the list of agencies or departments that you want to work with. The federal government has hundreds of different offices in 36 different agencies. So being able to narrow down specifically which agency you would like to sell your product or service to is extremely important. And then I also think, especially if you take a look at our 8A Business Development Program, that is our program that's actually a 9-year business development program, where in addition to your application and being accepted into the program, you receive a business opportunity specialist who helps you get on board with federal government contracting. It's important to be at a place in your business where you're able to take advantage of the opportunities. So you have to understand your access to capital. You have to understand your background with the products and services that you offer and how you can translate your contracting history, whether as a prime contractor or a subcontractor, to the federal government. And then I also think being able to market your services. So again, identifying particularly which agencies buy the products and services that you're interested in selling. I know we talked a little bit, there's a very interesting statistic that says that on average, it takes about 9 contacts with the contracting officer before you receive a contract or even a further conversation. And in general, for most people with their first contract for the government, it can take anywhere from 12 to 18 months of doing work before you're able to receive it. So we could talk a lot more, which I won't do, but in the interest of our other awesome panelists, we could talk a lot more about capture management, business development, etc. But the main thing is that when you are a small business and you're considering federal government contracting, you want to look at your past performance. You want to have a clear understanding of the products or services that you offer, and you want to do your research on which agencies or departments you're interested in selling to.
That is excellent, excellent information. Hopefully everybody wrote that down. And as you talk about past performance and in growing your business, how important is it to build relationships? Because you talked about visiting 9 times with the contracting officer or whoever that buying official is. Can you talk to us a little bit more about building relationships?
Absolutely. Building relationships, understanding who is the buyer of the ultimate service that you're trying to sell to the government is extremely important. And while, of course, we have our set-aside programs, which if we had a bigger conversation, we could talk more about how the set-aside programs in some way act as social capital to get businesses access to contracts that they would not have necessarily been able to get without participating in the set-aside program. So developing relationships with the buyers is extremely important. And you do that by having a concise or a concise yet very detailed capability statement where you talk about what you've done and what you're able to offer. And you also want to pay attention to the procurement forecast from the agencies. And something else that's really important and something that I think that is a great thing about the DC area is not only knowing how to advocate for yourself as a small business, but also having other small businesses that you network and work with who can be your competitors, right? Sometimes you have to have a small business that you bring with you as a teammate so that you all can go after larger opportunities that you would not be able to do on your own. And sometimes you bring the small business along to say, this is a person who would be my competition, but there are 2 of us. And so you need to consider us for the 8A, WOSB, SDVOB, etc., because we can show you here, me and my friend, me and my competitor are here showing that there are at least 2 small businesses who can do the work. So there is a line, I think, sometimes between, I think people worry a lot about whether or not they're bothering a contracting officer or a buyer in this environment. And as we've switched to being virtual, it is important that you try to establish those lines of communication and attend the OSDBU offices, the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. For a lot of the agencies are still having virtual networking days. And then again, taking advantage of the procurement forecast. There are some different ways to establish these relationships and make sure that you're getting your firm known and that you're ready and able when an opportunity becomes available.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that for just explaining a lot about SBA and those certifications and the growth of your business. And so we want to talk now about DC government and the CBE certification, which is a certified business enterprise. So Melissa, welcome. We're happy to have you. If you can, just give us a little bit of an overview of DSLBD and the services that they provide.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Ronette. So the Department of Small and Local Business Development, we support the small businesses in the District of Columbia. We meet you where you are. We have a number of programs depending on where you are in the business life cycle to support you, whether it's through technical assistance, whether it's through grants, whether it's through loans. And we have the Certified Business Enterprise certification within the division, within the department to help in terms of a vehicle of growth for our CBEs. And so that's kind of an overview of the agency. I specifically manage the Certified Business Enterprise certification part of the program. And this program is for-profit businesses that are headquartered in the District of Columbia. It provides our local businesses with preference in order to better compete when they're going after government opportunities, procurement opportunities with the district government. So that is the role that I play within the agency.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And so in order to do business with the District of Columbia, what certifications are required to be successful as a business owner?
Sure. So the Certified Business Enterprise Program, as I mentioned, is the program that you would need to participate. So the why should you get certified, right? So the CBE program, the district government agencies have to spend 50% of their expendable budget with CBEs. So last fiscal year, we spent over $900 million with certified firms. So I would do a plug in here for our Green Book, our Small Business Opportunities Guide. And so that would be, you can check it out on our website. It's greenbookdc.com. And so that's a book that breaks down all of the district government agencies that we monitor and that spend. So where are those agencies spending with our local small firms, and what's the forecast for this fiscal year? So our initial spending goal for this fiscal year is $917 million. So that's a lot of money that the district government has to spend with our local firms. In addition to that, any contracts over under $250,000 has to be set aside for our small local businesses. Anything over that, it has currently a 50% subcontracting requirement with local small businesses. So there's a lot of opportunities for our local small businesses to be utilized within the procurement space, within the development space, and anyone kind of doing business in DC must utilize our local firms. So that's kind of the why. And once you're certified, we do send you to the Office of Contracting and Procurement. The district does have a DC supply schedule. So once you're certified, we send you there for small purchases. So any small purchases that we have to procure as district agencies, we go to that schedule. So that's another opportunity for you to be utilized as a business. So that's kind of the why and kind of the rundown of the money that's available for our local firms.
That's excellent, because that was my next question, because I was going to say, I'm a certified CBE, now what? So thank you so much for clarifying that for us. Are there any new initiatives that DSLBD has going on right now?
So for our local firms that are on the line, some of you may be aware that we did release kind of a new part of our local definition. If it affected you in any way, you would have received notice from us, but we now have in addition to our local test, where you have to be independently owned, operated, and controlled, or you have to be owned by a local business that's here in the district, or if you're not owned by a local business, the majority of that ownership has to be district residents. So just for the CBEs or potential CBEs that are in the event today, that's kind of a recent change that has occurred with our law. In addition to that, we do have an upcoming crowdfunding opportunity with DC Kiva Hub. There's a $15,000 cap on that initiative. But if any businesses that are on the line are at this event are interested, I would say if you can send an email to our InnoEd team. So it'll be inno.ed@dc.gov. And you can find out more information about that. And all of our opportunities upcoming, whether it's funding related or workshop related, can be found on the DSLBD website through our DC Business Toolkit. So our website, and I'll put some of these in the chat. I know I'm speaking really fast with taking time in consideration, but our website is dslbd.dc.gov. I will post the toolkit in the chat, but it's dcbusinesstoolkit.com. So that's a space where you can go to on our website to find out about all the upcoming kind of workshops, grant opportunities. And like I mentioned, if you're interested in the DC Kiva Hub, please send an email to our InnoEd team so that way we can give you the information for upcoming information about the launch and what the details are behind that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate it. So now we want to talk to Andreas Hayes, the Director of International Trade and Commerce for the District of Columbia. Welcome. So glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Brenda. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So Andreas, can you just give us an overview of what the city is doing for on the international level to promote international trade and to the international community?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the question. Let me start. We're responsible. The international team is responsible for 4 things. The first one is to attract FDI to the district. The second one is to maintain the countries that already invest in the city. The third one is maintain or actually identify potential opportunities for export, meaning assist our SMEs to be able to export their products and services. And last but not least, we're also responsible for all of the diplomatic/trade missions. So a trade mission could be responsible for, could have a diplomatic component or trade component or both. Now, in terms of what we're doing, there are several initiatives that we're currently working on. After developing an international business plan for the city, we were able to identify that, first of all, we wanted to make sure how we could take advantage that we host over 180 embassies here in Washington, D.C. So we do have access to the world here. So what we did, we developed a plan where we could say, okay, fine. First of all, how can we actually sell the city? There was a big challenge here before. In most of the countries and most of the major cities, so they see as either we host the White House and the federal government, we have the Washington Monument and lots of museums. So we wanted to change that perception. So we developed an embassy series program. In that program, we identified 23 countries. And we changed that perspective by identifying and presenting to them all the accolades that we have received as a city, as one of the top strongest economy in the United States, number 2 in women in tech. And the list goes on. So we actually start selling the city in that aspect. And to our surprise, all 23 countries said to us, you know what, Andres and the rest of the team, we actually want to do something with Washington, D.C. So we went back to the drawing board, and that's a good plan. So we actually built a strategy by country and identified also industry sectors that are interested for both cities or city and country. So we could actually start working on it and do a good exchange. And then we identified, we said, okay, fine, how can we actually reach to the business community? So we partner with the DC Chamber of Commerce. Because it's their largest membership organization, and also because they're extremely diverse in terms to the industry sectors and their membership. So we said, okay, fine, we have a plan now for the city, help us to actually disseminate this information to the membership. And then because of all the challenges that we're facing, we said, okay, fine, how are we gonna doing virtual trade missions? Now, the first one is gonna be on May 19, that's gonna be to Greece. We're actually hosting another one at the end of June. That's going to be with Ireland. Then we're doing another one with the UK, actually between July. And then in September, we're going to be one to Uzbekistan and also to the Dominican Republic. Now, we also relaunched the Export DC program. And what is this program? This program is designed for small and medium enterprises to be able to promote their products and services abroad, to take them to another level or to the international level. And then there are going to be 4 components to this program. The first one, to be able to participate on international trade missions. And while they actually participate in the trade missions, we're going to be responsible to do B2B matchmaking. The second thing is going to be for them to be able to actually, if they're not international ready, we'll make sure that we actually will, in conjunction with the DC Chamber of Commerce, we're going to coach them to become international ready. So we will help them develop an international plan or strategy. The third thing is also going to be able to do not necessarily to international missions, but to be able to join us on international networking events. And what does that mean? That means that we'll be able to actually host other countries or cities when they come to Washington, D.C., and they'll be able to do matchmaking as well. And also, we're going to be doing shorter international one-to-one networking events with all the countries that we have decided. So the message here is, yes, there are going to be several opportunities for those companies or SMEs to think outside of the box, or they feel that they're not ready, revise your strategy. You might have a product or service that I can actually be able to share with another company abroad. And if you're not ready, just remember that we can assist you to it. And there are going to be 23 countries that we're currently working the moment. So between now and next year, 23 countries. And then we're going to be building additional strategies.
I love it. That is amazing. I did attend the international trade mission to the Bahamas a couple of years ago, and it was amazing the way that the country greeted us. All of the executives greeted us. It was awesome. And I think when you said they're coming to the United States at some point as well too, or will that be virtual?
Right now, all the missions that we're doing are virtual.
Okay.
And all of the networking events are going to be virtual. Hopefully, we're thinking by next year that we'll be able to do in-person meeting that will definitely travel as soon as the rest of the world opens, little by little.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then if you don't mind, can you just post a little bit about how people would get in touch with you and to find out more about the mission? And also, if people want to join, is it too late to join the next one for Greece?
Yeah, for Greece it's actually too late, but definitely there's an opportunity now for the Ireland and also for the UK. And definitely we're going to be posting. So I do encourage you to visit our website and also to visit the Chamber website, because then they will see the days when we're going to be posting the events. And also, we're going to be posting several information about the international networking events that we're going to be hosting. There's one coming up now we're doing one with Italy. There's going to be another one with Germany, and there's another one with Singapore. So those are actually interesting countries that are ready to start operations here in Washington, D.C., and to partner with other companies here in Washington, D.C. And let's remember, this is to help the small business community. This is for SMEs. So I'm going to actually post in the chat our website where they can actually find information, and also the email address where they can write us if they're interested in participating in the Export DC program. If they want to learn more about the international initiative, I will actually put my email address in the chat as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great information. Definitely.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And so next we will have Sandra Eberhardt. She's the president and CEO of WeBank, Metro New York and Greater DMV. Welcome, Sandra. Great to see you. I think you're on mute.
To turn off my mute.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you give us an overview of WeBank and WeBank?
Absolutely. So the WeBank Greater DMV is one of the 14 regional partners of WeBank. And WeBank is the Women Business Enterprise National Council, the national organization that began more than 20 years ago because corporations wanted to support a diverse supply chain that included businesses that were women-owned. So we are a local organization with a national presence. We are a 501c3, so that we don't compete with our businesses, but we support businesses locally. We have 2 regional partners, one in New York that supports New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And of course here, the Greater DMV that supports the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. So locally, we have a core focus that fuels local economy, right? Our focus is to fuel the local economy through the empowerment of women business owners, because we all know that when women do well, everyone does well. We define women-owned businesses as having 51% documented ownership, control through the board and voting process of their company, and day-to-day management and expertise to make all of the major decisions in their company. At the national level, WeBank owns the certification process. So we certify businesses based on standards of that 51% ownership across the country through all 14 regional partners. That means that the certification is national, and there are 17,000 businesses across this nation who have been certified through that process. Locally, nationally also, we are one of the third-party certifiers for the Women-Owned Small Business Program with the SBA. We process both at the same time with a 90-day guarantee so that our women business owners can get over that one hurdle and one challenge that they face when facing contracting opportunities.
Wow. Thank you. So you're about diversity. So how are you diversifying the playing field for minority-owned businesses?
So we are obviously certifying our women-owned. Core focus is women-owned. However, we work with any type of women-owned business who meets the certification standards. And that means that our network here in the DMV is 800 strong, 40% of which is diverse, meaning there are non-minority businesses, African-American businesses, Latinx businesses, Asian, and so forth. So we are very, very diverse in our local community. Our goal in 10 years is to support 50% of the WeBank certifiable businesses in our territory and make sure that our internal network mirrors that external territory.
Wonderful, wonderful. Are you working on any new programs?
Yes, as a matter of fact, this year we have funding from 2 of our corporate members. At the national level, we are sponsored and supported by corporations, those folks who are traded on the NASDAQ, as well as locally. And 2 of our local corporations gave us funding, and we have a program that we call Amplify. And we have 29 Black-owned businesses that are walking through this program. We have business content. We heard all throughout this conference so far today about the different types of information that are needed for our businesses to be impactful and for high growth. We also work on community building, teaching our WBEs, Women Business Enterprises, who is in the network, who is an entrepreneur like them, who's like-minded, so that they can talk to one another, have information, use that social capital of networking and information sharing and best practice sharing, so that when it comes to making a critical decision, they have other input and they don't have. And then finally, of course, making connections for business opportunities with our corporations, business opportunities with each other, and of course, business opportunities with the federal government.
Wonderful, wonderful, great information. Thank you so much, Ms. Sandra. Next, we will talk to Tommy Marks, who's the Director MBDA for the Federal Procurement Center for NMSDC. So good afternoon, Tommy. Can you please give us an overview of the services offered by NMSDC?
Yes, good afternoon, and thanks for having me. I'm actually representing Sharon Pender, who is the President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council, which is an affiliate of the National Minority Supply Development Council, which is located in New York. The center here is one of 23 regional centers across the United States. And specifically, Ms. Pender focuses on the DMV, obviously DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia down to Fredericksburg. And the center itself is affiliated with, and they focus on corporate America. So there's nationally, there are 1,400 corporations and about 13 certified minority business enterprises that the national has. Our region here, we have about 60 corporations and several hundred, over 500 minority business enterprises that have been certified by the Capital Region. And what does that mean? It puts them, it's a national certification. So if one's certified here, they're actually they're networked across the United States with the other 22 sister centers, that, if you will, that are a part of the NMSDC. That certification really focuses on minority groups, specifically African Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, which include Pacific Islanders and Alaskan Natives, along with Hispanic Americans and then Hasidic Jews. And the focus is the council here was established in 1972, and as they work daily with corporate America, especially with their the small business liaisons and diversity inclusion officers at those corporations in order to have procurement-ready minority firms to participate in the process. And so that's the central summary of what the councils do across the United States.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so can you talk a little bit about the certification programs that you have? Because I know you have a commercial or private sector certification, correct?
Yes, so certified minority business enterprises, the certification that they get from the council puts them in a position where corporate entities understand that they have been through the national certification, which then allows them to be a part of the network, if you will, across the United States with working with in the commercial side of the house and private side of the house.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm a small business and I'd like to utilize your services. Are there fees associated with that?
Yes, there's a fee for the certification. So they put you through, in fact, here we do once a month, we do a pre-certification brief, which doesn't cost you any money. You sign up with us and they go through the process, telling you about the organization and the certification process itself, along with the benefits. And some of the key benefits, obviously, one of the big ones is networking. Across a national network that you get exposed to locally here. What Ms. Pender has put in place, she established a program called Get on the Bus, the Plane, and the Train. And what that is we take certified MBEs, we go to other regional locations. And in fact, one of the places they went to was Nashville. When Nashville was expanding their airport, she took about 10 businesses from here to there, and got that exposure and opportunities to actually contract and do work in Nashville.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate your responses. We do have some questions in the chat, so I'm just going to look at the chat. Here is a question for Melissa. It says, does DSLBD still have a program that accepts small businesses to participate in a series of workshops? And at the end of the program, the small business is provided a credit line through DSLBD's financial partner between $200,000 and $500,000. I apologize, I'm not aware of the name of the program.
So I would have to look into that. I know there's been some shifts in the programs and offerings that we have. I know there's a bonding program that is starting in June, which is a series of classes. But if you can send me an email at Melissa, MELISSA .RE, S as in Sam, IL as in Larry at dc.gov, I'll definitely connect you and answer that question. But also, as I mentioned, our business toolkit has any kind of upcoming workshops or upcoming opportunities. So that would be another kind of resource to find out whether there's those classes that are available right now. But that's very specific, so I'd like to follow up.
Wonderful, thank you. I have another question for Candace. Candace, can you talk about the new certification process that SBA has for WOSB?
Absolutely. So basically what we've done is we've gone from doing a self-certification process to bringing it in-house, where the women-owned small businesses have to go to our new portal, beta.certify.sba.gov. I'll make sure to put that in the chat for the SBA to certify that you are a woman-owned small business. This just helps to ensure for government contracting officers that you have been vetted and verified as a woman-owned small business. And so if you self-certified previously and you have a contract, that contract will continue. However, to get new opportunities, any businesses that were previously self-certified do have to go through the SBA's portal. We are continuing to work with our third-party certifiers, like Sandra. I see you, like Sandra, and there are a couple of other organizations that we work with for the third-party certification. But now we have brought our certification process in-house, and to be certified as a woman-owned small business, you can no longer self-certify as of October the 15th last year, and you do need to visit our updated portal and provide the documentation. We also have our 90-day, per legislation, it takes 90 days, or we have up to 90 days to certify our women-owned small businesses. Right now, because of the great interest that we've had in the program, it is taking us about 45 days or so to award the certification to our women-owned small businesses.
Wonderful, thank you. And can you just touch base a little bit about the new joint venture rules that came out as well?
Absolutely. So our joint venture program changed through we did some regulatory changes that took effect in November of last year. Previously, if you were an 8A certified firm, to do a joint venture, the joint venture had to be approved by the Small Business Administration. And the rule was, there was a 3 and 2 rule. When the joint venture was awarded their first contract, a 2-year time period started, and the limit to the amount of awards that the joint venture could receive was 3. As of November 2020, the new rule is that the SBA approved joint ventures are only for sole source awards. And so that means that if the joint venture will be awarded a contract that they did not have to compete for, a sole source award probably valued at $4.5 million or lower, with some exceptions, of course, for ANCs, NHCs, and Indian tribes, then that joint venture does have to be approved by the SBA. We have also removed the criteria where there's a 2-year limit on joint ventures and a maximum of 3 contracts that can be awarded. So if you're in the 8A program and you have a joint venture, you can feel free to reach out to us or reach out to my office. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Wonderful, thank you. And then one last question, Sandra, someone asked, how do I become a member of WBEC? And I believe you put your information in the chat.
I did. I put my information in the chat. So we are not a membership organization. If you remember, I said we're 501c3, means we're not for profit. To get the resources that we offer in the way of content, community, and/or connection, whether it's locally and nationally. Remember, we're a local organization with a national presence. All you have to do is get certified if you're certifiable. However, locally, even if you're not certifiable, you're women-owned, you want to join our programming, please feel free. We offer resources because we want to fuel the local economy for all businesses.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. What a wonderful discussion we've had today. Does anyone have any parting words? Andreas, did you have any parting words or anything?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I just want to remind all of the participants that if they actually join the Export DC program, we will cover the cost for them to join us to an international trade missions. We will train them to become international ready. And also we will help them to we'll provide technical assistance if they need to actually do any type of enhancements to the website to accept payments online, etc., or they actually to participate on the networking events. So we are here to help. And the most important, our team is going to, and in conjunction with the DC Chamber of Commerce, we will make sure that proper follow-up is done. So if there's not a matchmaking is done at round 1, we'll make sure until we get round 2, round 3, and round 4, or we'll make sure that proper matchmaking is done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As time has come to an end, I want to thank you all so much for your participation on this panel today. Can everyone give them a round of applause, because they are phenomenal people. And thank you all for putting your information in the chat as well. So today, it was my pleasure to be your moderator for this panel on growing your business. We gave you tools to help with growth strategies, required certifications on how to be successful. And I hope this panel gave you so much more insight in growing your business. Have a wonderful networking session. Congratulations to all the awardees we're about to hear, and have a great weekend and happy Mother's Day to all. Thank you all so much.